It's October 2nd, 2024. It's 5 p.m. We're here for the Common Council meeting for a budget hearing. Media has been notified. Agenda's been posted. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Thomas Barnett. Here. Leanne Felton.
Here.
Carrie Michalowski.
Here.
Bob Luter.
Here.
Gerald Anderson. David Holt. Luke Kramer.
Here.
Stephen Jopek.
Here.
Chris Hannes.
Here. We do have quorum, even though we're not conducting business. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need to practice that. That went sideways.
Okay. Going on to number 4, which is public comment. Is there any public comment? Any of the alders receive any public comment? Okay, not seeing. Moving on. Introduction of new business. A, be our city budget. Discuss proposed 2025 budget, starting with the airport, and then it goes on as seen. I don't know if their representative from the airport would like to come up and explain. How are you doing today?
There we go. Some pilot I always forget. Well, good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Matthew Leitner. I'm the airport director of the Rhinelander, Oneida County Airport. Thank you very much for the opportunity to elucidate a little bit with respect to our proposed 2025 budget. If it's all right with you, I'm going to kind of expedite through it, hit some of the salient parts, and then please feel free to ask any questions or request additional information. I know when I do this, sometimes I'm continually retreading the same tires, so I don't want to bore you to death. For the year 2025, our city request is the same, and I always ask this kind of rhetorically of Wendy. The amount is $197,081. It was actually 2014, the last time we changed that and received a request. So, as many of you know, that amount has been the same for 11 years. And it's predicated on an equal share between the city and the county. And just to kind of give you a sense of what you're getting for that investment, you may have heard via local and regional media, over the last 6 years, we've done $25 million worth of capital improvement projects. 95% of that has been paid for by the federal government with a state match. If you were to go back, and this, I gotta be careful how I say this because it's kind of convoluted. So in 6 years, we've done $25 million. In the preceding 30 years, and I grant this is not adjusted for inflation, we did $25 million worth of capital improvement projects. So we've really accelerated the rate of federal and state grants. Half of that was actually this year for a comprehensive pavement rehabilitation and electrical rehabilitation project throughout the airfield. The budget for 2025 is about 5.5% over 2024. The amount that we're insofar as revenue to make up for that additional expense is coming primarily from landing fees, terminal rental, and parking revenue. That's a philosophical continuation of shifting the onus, if you will, to the users of the airport versus our local and regional partners to kind of assuage the budgetary pressure as it pertains to the city and the county. Also, maybe worth noting is when I came in and got the keys 6 years ago, the local share, city and county, was 40% of our annual budget. Now it's about 27%. So as the years go on, I anticipate that'll continue to be reduced. But the FAA, in return for all these grants that they give us, they do like to see local, well, I shouldn't say they like to see, they insist on local participation. And just to put it into context, and I say this objectively, the city of Eagle River essentially spends as much on their airport as the city of Rhinelander and the county of Oneida do on ours. So as far as, you know, juxtaposing our airport with airports of similar size, our local share is pretty low, and I intend to keep it that way, and I believe the commission agrees with that philosophy. So that said, any questions you may have or any information you would like regarding specifics, I'd be happy to explain.
Yeah, I was just curious, as far as the landing fees for CSA and for like freight runners, how are those compared to like some of the other bases that they have, like at Wausau or Eau Claire? Or, I mean, are they pretty relative or pretty close? Or
It's a great question. To be honest, from what I can discern, we're a little bit higher. But they're happy to pay because from what I can discern, we're pretty, we get the freight statistics every month from them when we get the landing fee report. And they're doing really, really well. Likewise for SkyWest, which is Delta's partner. It's a very, arguably, lucrative market for them. So admittedly, our landing fees are a little bit higher than comparable airports, but they're very agreeable when it comes to that rate. So I would say a little bit higher, maybe on par with some that I'm not, like perhaps Green Bay, Appleton, Madison, airports of that size, but maybe a little bit more than the smaller ones such as Wausau Downtown or Seaway, comparable airports to us,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the other question I had was in relation to the fuel flows. So, just so I'm clear, the city or the airport actually owns the fuel farm, and then we pay, or they pay us a pumping fee essentially per gallon?
Correct. Yeah, great question. We actually replaced the fuel farm on a state grant about 3 years ago. The airport owns it, and then we have a contract with our fixed base operation, Rhinelander Flying Service, and as you say, they pay us 6 cents per gallon for retail fuel sales and then 4 cents per gallon for the airline.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So the only question I would have, and it might be more directed to Wendy or Patrick, so as private entities build hangars out on airport land, which is owned by the city and county, which is not a taxing body, how is there a way we could collect revenue off of the structures being built that aren't being used for city or county government operations on the airport land? Because if we're not building them and if a private entity's building them, they're kind of skirting taxes, if I'm not mistaken.
Did you want to start, or did you, I see you.
My understanding is we were collecting personal property tax on these buildings, and that with the repeal of a personal property tax, the city would still be able to collect the tax, but we'd have to bill them directly, and it would not go through like a personal property tax statement. But that is more something that the clerk's office is handling.
And that's actually a recent change, just in the past year and a half, roughly. And then coinciding with that, it may be worth mentioning that we do have a per square foot per year lease rate that we charge hangars and private individuals out there as well.
Okay, thank you. Was there anything else for our airport director? Okay, moving on to our next budget, which would be...
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Which would be the golf course. So I would like to thank council because as this whole category is kind of an emerging topic. The Northwoods Golf Course for many years was just a golf course. Now it's much more than that. A couple years ago, the city took the donation by Lee Swank for the Hill Creek land. You guys support over the last couple years for building the trails. So even, I think our last council meeting, you guys supported building a storage facility and more trails out there. So this is quickly changing from just a golf course to one of the largest green spaces and outdoor parks we have. So in the next couple of years, this is going to be a continually evolving area for the city because we're adding more activities, we're bringing more of the youth out there, we're bringing more of the civilians out there, and we're just making this more feel like a park, look like a park, an outdoor rec facility. So this is kind of an emerging market for us because the golf course is still operating. There's still the cost and benefit of a golf course, but we're adding more and more activities out there with benefits to our residents, to our community, and just to kind of show what Rhinelander is about. So something to keep in mind as we look at this, there's the golf course aspect, but it's also how do we move forward. So probably appropriate to let you guys give your presentation first and go from there.
Okay, thank you. I'm Justin Fox. I'm the regional manager for Oliphant Golf, managing the golf course, and then Keith Sterone here is our general manager. So, and Joe here is the golf course superintendent. So, you can go to the next slide. As far as the team and some additional support that we have is Tom Stem is our regional manager of agronomy, and then we also do the accounting, and we have some marketing support as well for the team doing the social media and the website. You can go to the next slide. So I'll kind of just hit the highlights here, but just wanted to say that we're happy to be here and excited for the progress of the golf course and what's happening around the golf course and what the future holds. I think some of the impact that we've seen this summer is with Keith. We stood up here last year, and it was a big goal for us to get a good general manager in place, and I think Keith did a great job of that. And Keith did a great job of building the team and supporting the operation. We had a lot of great feedback this year from all over, and then also with the restaurant being open consistently has helped with some of the revenues. We've seen some of the expense on the labor side go up because of that as well, but also to Chris's point, trying to prepare to service non-golfing activities as well. We think there's a great opportunity for a bar and restaurant, bar and grill up there, and it can be viable as we continue to gain traction, down the road. So, a couple other highlights: Waterfall was operational all year long, Memorial Day to Labor Day. That was a big capital improvement, and so happy to have that going. Happy to continue to work with the city and the Parks Department, and then also the implementation of the golf committee last fall. We were able to attend a handful of meetings with them and work with them and focus on transparency and keeping the golf course moving in the right direction. Can go to the next slide. I'd mentioned the expanded, hours of the restaurant and full service nature of it, if you will. Highlight there, having a fish fry that started in July. Yes. Fish fry that started in July and was consistently available through the end of the summer and into the off season here as well. Couple of other highlights on the golf side, just refurbishing some of the range stands. We had an alarm system that was needed to be updated. We got a new phone system in recently, so all the new voicemail is set up there. And then new seats on the golf carts. We did 20 new seats last year. That was half of the golf carts that needed it. And then you'll see in our budget, this year is included 60 new golf carts. Is within our budget this year. So on the golf course side, greens in the golf course are as good as they've ever been. Joe's been able to do a great job and had a great crew over the last couple of years. A highlight is that we've just added a full-time assistant for Joe with Josh. So he'll have support. In the past it's just been Joe. He's the superintendent, the mechanic, and the assistant superintendent. So Josh was able to help us out quite a bit over winter, 23 to 24. It was pretty mild. We were able to get a lot of tree work done on the golf course, which was a nice impact to golfers and the experience there. Some benches on the golf course that were kind of starting to break down. We were able to remove half of those, I believe, and then some control panels, some used control panels we were able to find and get shipped up here. Some other cultural practices that we've implemented, verticutting, and then our greens roller is up here as well, keeping the greens in great shape. So, but kudos to Joe and Keith for making all these highlights happen this year. Okay. Revenue projections. So obviously last year was a bit of a roller coaster and a down year. You can see we bounced back nicely in 2024 as far as revenue is concerned. Kind of fought halfway back on the membership side, and we expect that to continue to grow in 2025. Majority of the revenue increase then comes from cart fees and food. We actually doubled our food revenue compared to last year and 2022, which was a great year for us. So food has gone up quite a bit, and then you'll see, just some of the dollars per round as far as green fee and cart fee. I said last year was a bit of a down year, but happy to bounce back this year, and then we expect that to go up about another $4 going into 2025 is what we've budgeted. So. Few highlights here with leagues and golf outings. Overall had a nice increase in the leagues and saw people coming back playing golf at Northwood, although what was the numbers on the rain days this year?
64 out of 90.
64 out of 90. So we had a lot of league cancellations, you know, a lot of afternoons. So, you know, speaking to the rounds, we're still up quite a bit on rounds this year, even with all those rain days. So, okay, next slide. Marketing impacts. So something that we've done is paid social media marketing. We're able to target people really well, you know, so that transitioned over to, you know, food and beverage this year. We spent some money targeting on food and beverage, and it said food had doubled, and that's there's a lot of bang for buck in there. We also did in the spring, we did some print ads and you know, things like that, working with the chamber with some of the outings and things. So I did want to note also that the female presence has increased, you know, year over year, and 3% this year, which we found with the females holding the household decisions and the decisions to go out and eat. That was a bit good KPI that we saw there. So next slide. So Wendy, I know this is in our format, but the revenues and expenses should match. You know, happy to answer any questions as we get through this as well. So we've got revenue jumping up quite a bit, but with the experience that Keith has provided, we feel pretty good about that. We see green fees, rates have been pretty stagnant since 2022. We didn't raise, we did raise green fees last year, but memberships didn't go up. So we've got some of our lower green fees. Those dollars are coming up to be, you know, competitive with courses in the area, and so that's where you'll see the increase in the green and cart fees. And that's housing the majority of the revenue increase. We see a nice increase with food and beverage revenue, but that is, you know, we feel good about that with the traction that we've had this year, and expect that to grow. So top line, this year we're forecasting 920,000 in revenue. Next year is 1.1. See, you know, on the expense side, as I said, we have some equipment is built into the budget. So I mentioned the 60 carts. We have a bev cart, a rough mower that's needed, a utility cart, and a new truck that is built into the budget. So that's to the tune of about $75,000 in equipment. Those would be 5-year. Those would be financed for 5 years. So with that being said, you know, at the end of the year, you see increases in labor. The majority of that is all food and beverage. You know, we're at a point where we've just got to keep the restaurant open so that we can provide consistency. The upside is as revenue increases, the labor will not need to increase that much to keep it open. So we see as food and beverage revenue grows, the net income should as well. So with net income of budgeted at $7,000 for 2025. You can go to the next slide. That's about what I had highlighted, you know, talking through the revenues there. You can go to the next slide. So this is our rates proposal. Patrick, I don't know if this is the official forum or if we need to send it, you know, separately, but we can talk through.
No, you'd want to, this would go through council, through a regular council meeting.
Okay.
As a resolution.
Okay, so you can see, you know, just some of the 9-hole rates are going up, but again, it's competitive in the area. We've been very sensitive to keeping golf affordable for the residents, and it still will be for the residents of Rhinelander. it'll still be the most affordable golf course in the area for residents. And then we're also seeing kind of our standard increase on the non-resident. For non-residents, we're eliminating, a couple rates in the senior and twilight that we just don't see being utilized. Afternoons are pretty much filled up during the week for twilight. So you can go to the next one, please. Yep. So annual passes, kind of standard. I think we're about a 10% increase with annual passes. Again, I mentioned they did not go up in 2024, so we feel like we're right about in a good place there, and very competitive with golf courses in the area. You can go to the next slide again. The capital equipment, I'd mentioned this already. So we have the pickup truck and plow, a rough mower, 60 golf carts. So we would be increasing our golf carts by 10. Currently we have 50. And we had rented, I think, for about 20 for a good chunk this year. So that'll get us to a good spot with 60 golf carts. Beverage cart, utility cart. So again, those are already built into the budget with the expenses. And then, we've got some upcoming needs up there as well. So I think back in 2022, we had come together and put together a master plan. With what's going on around the golf course, we're happy to help with that in any way we can. I highlighted bunkers here. That's by far the biggest complaint on the golf course, and probably holding us back a little bit on green fees for the weekenders. So just wanted to highlight that. So happy to answer any questions or concerns, comments.
So I have a couple. So I know with chamber meetings and stuff like that, a lot of people believe 2022 is kind of the high tide, for outdoor rec activities based on COVID, just people wanting to be outside more. Are you seeing a trend line, kind of what the golf courses you oversee, of that not being the high tide? Because 2023, we could argue we had management change, staff turnover, highway was under road construction, which is all negatives, that will slow down. But now 2024 is higher than 2022. So, as a big picture from what you guys manage, was 22 looking like high tide or not really as a whole?
Yeah, as far as rounds go, it is. We're seeing rounds stay pretty flat right now, but the value and cost expenses have gone up. We're seeing there's still a lot of value in green fees. Golf is still popular. They're staying. Their rounds are staying pretty flat, but green fee prices are still on the rise across the board.
There.
Especially for golf courses that are caliber of Northwood.
There. And then going for your capital equipment, I know in the past we have rented golf carts in a pinch when we needed them, for a special event, something like that. I'm assuming increasing the fleet by 10 would reduce that cost, and is a cost benefit from ownership versus renting, just because of the quantity of rents, I'm assuming?
Correct. And in addition to the maintenance that we've had to put into the carts, we spent $5,000 on those seats, on 20 seats. And then it was, I think, it was $7,000 for the rentals this year in total.
So it might not necessarily be a capital equipment, but it's capital. So the clubhouse is aging. It's 20 plus years old. From a kitchen equipment, from bar equipment, anything in that area you see in the near future that might need modernization or removing?
I think we did quite a bit this year, but I know, Keith, I'll let you speak to kitchen equipment.
We had done a few changes in the kitchen. We've gotten new equipment throughout the season. That's why our expenses were a little bit higher this year. So we have upgraded some pieces that we desperately needed in the kitchen. We still need a few more, but we can do those periodically as we go along and not do it all at once. Our bar is a little bit out of date. It's one of those things that down the line over the near future, we may need to do a remodel on it to bring it back up to standards where it should be, but it's functioning the way it is now. So we're not anticipating a huge change at the bar area at the moment.
So then the other question I have is, a lot of times the success of a golf course is based on staffing. So have you guys had any trouble this year trying to find staff, retain staff? I know the times I've been out there, it seemed pretty well functioning. You know, I'm assuming that's based on Keith and Joe's day-to-day operation, leadership and management. But has that been kind of a problem this year at all, or has that been pretty decent for you guys?
Early on, it was a little difficult finding people in the area, but we did use a lot of word of mouth from people that started working for us to bring others in that were competent enough to work with us in our company, and they succeeded. We've had a great staff this year. We had very little turnover throughout the season, and I don't anticipate a lot of turnover for next year in our main areas. Outside of our beverage cart girls, they turn over from year to year because they're high schoolers or college girls. But our bar staff is solid. They're still here with us for most of the year, and going into this winter, we'll still have a full bar staff. Our kitchen's staying. We've got 2 cooks on staff that are staying throughout the whole winter. Joe's department is pretty much intact.
Yeah, on the grounds crew side of things, I'd say 3/4 or so of my crew I've had for years and years and years. They come back year after year. Get a few seasonal young men or ladies on the crew once in a while. And once we get them, we usually only keep them while they're in college, and then they move on. But I mean, I've been very fortunate to have a great crew the last few years.
Thank you. Do any members of council have questions about the presentation? Because then as we go through each of their budgets, you know, we could dig in deeper. Okay, nothing. So thank you for the presentation, and now we could start on the budget side. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So it looks like the first page is revenue. I don't know if there's anything you want to touch on, Justin, on that, or Keith, or anyone from the group.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll see quite a jump, a little jump there in memberships, which we see with the increase. That's very feasible, and we have adding, I think, 8 memberships next year. So that's where those numbers are coming from. Green fees with rates, and I think it's about 1,000 round increase in rounds. We feel very good about that. Same thing with the food and beverage. The traction's been good. We're booking private events and things like that. So.
Council have any questions about revenue sources? Okay, not seeing. Moving on to the next one, which is grounds. So the golf course, from an expense point of view, is a little unique, where some of the expenses are divided up from food and beverage, golf, clubhouse, grounds. So there's something to keep in mind when you see salaries, that salaries only for the grounds aspect of the facility. Turn it over to you, Justin, if there's anything you'd like to point out on this.
No, I mean, you'll see up a little bit to budget, and to your point about the staffing, we are paying for it. We've just seen increases in the staffing there, the hourly wages. You're just talking. Are you speaking budget for next year? Yeah. Happy to answer any questions. We'll see a larger increase in FERT and Chem for next year on the maintenance team, which is outside of the norm. I think it's about a 12% increase this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's just fertilizer chemicals are going up.
Yeah.
As far as grounds go, you have landscaping materials. Is that dealing directly with the bunkers, or is that landscaping making it pretty? That has gone up also.
Landscaping materials would include anything from flowers and shrubbery, which we do very little of, to topsoil, which if we want to do any of these improvements on bunker work, even if we go through 1 or 2 to show an example of what they can become, that topsoil would be included in that. For the most part, that would be the increase, is the cost in that material.
Mr. Anderson?
You have $1,250 a month for marketing. Do you think that's enough?
In what? 1,200?
Marketing, M-A-R-K-E-T.
Marketing.
Is that in grounds, or is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the next page. One page at a time.
Mr. Jopek?
Just looking at the trend on the fuel, grease, oil, and again, all this is just kind of looking at it and me learning and being more aware. Just your trend there, 2021, 2022, 2023 is 14 to 12 in that area. This year, your budget is at 21. Are you seeing that you're using that? Is that budget estimate accurate or not? I see it drops down like $200, and so I guess I'm just want to know, just learning.
Yeah, I think, go ahead,
So-
Wendy.
So the fun part about this is Oliphant is our management company, and they track all the accounting records, and then they send me their financials. And I have fit their financials into our existing financials, and I have categorized something differently than what they categorized. On our system, the expenditure that ends in 222 is labeled gas. In my mind and reference from how we code at the city, that is like LP gas to heat or through public service. However, it's like the heating of the building's gas. And then the fuel, grease, and oil is actually fuel. And I think that it hasn't come through the same way from the financials. So if you look up at the gas, it looks like that's dropped down significantly, but I think it's just a coding variance.
So it'd be split between that 20.8 is probably somewhere in between the gas and then the fuel, grease, oil. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for this budget? Okay, not seeing. Move on to the clubhouse and administration. Justin?
Yeah, so you'll see quite a jump, but again, with the capital equipment that's being financed within there, well, I may be mistaken there. That might be a different. Yeah.
So I have a question. So
Sure.
like looking at these different breakdowns, you have salaries. So I'm assuming that's the salaries of boots on the ground, everything from, Joe and Keith down to the seasonal help.
Correct.
But then when you move into professional services, so, you budgeted this year 90,000 going up to 110. The marketing 1250 makes sense, from a marketing. Can you dive in a little bit more, like what's the admin labor and Oliphant management fee and like what, for that cost, which is almost 80 grand budgeted, like what does that include? Like what are we getting out of that 80 grand, so to speak?
Sure. So the OGM management fee budgeted in 2025 would be $95,000. So what that includes is, the general management would do all the accounting for the property, all of your HR, payroll, AP. We're coding all the invoices and then paying all the invoices. From a tech standpoint, we're hosting the website, controlling the website, and on the marketing side, we have weekly marketing meetings with Keith, and so, we'll get some information from Keith, and then our team will execute the marketing, sending out e-blasts, sending out to social media. It also includes some direction from, our regional manager of agronomy, Tom. Tom's making at least 4 visits a year. I'm up here monthly with Keith, going over the game plan. We've done, in addition to that, we've done quarterly meetings this year where we're setting goals, evaluating our previous quarter to budget, and then setting new goals for the next season. So, I think I covered, the overall general management, and then from the HR perspective, admin.
So is the admin labor more yourself and, I don't know if you said his name was Tom, you know, coming, doing the site visits and evaluations?
Yeah, that and in our corporate office, all the you know, the girls that are doing payroll, and then
okay.
you know, getting all the invoices organized and things like that.
Okay.
And that's a, you know, flat fee. We don't bill any additional for travel when we come up, or food or anything like that. It's just a flat fee for what we have.
That was the only question I had. I don't know if anyone on council has any other. Mr. Jopek?
Again, I'm always learning and asking questions. Sorry.
Sure.
The budget last year for salaries was 54.6. It's jumping up to 109.5. It says to the side of it, salaries, taxes, and benefits. Is that? Are we talking about just expansion of employment, new employees? Like, I guess salaries is kind of general. I was just curious.
Yeah, so in the past, we had that, the general manager split between admin and golf. And in 2024, his salaries are falling all in the admin. In addition to, we've had some admin support where we have, you know, an assistant working a couple hours a week doing cash and billing and taking things to the bank. So there's some, you know, a few hours of part-time work in the salaries as well. So as far as what's included in those, that's kind of the breakdown. If you jump down to the golf sides, you know, we used to have that split. We used to have the GM split between golf and admin. Now the GM is entirely in golf, and you know, so you'll see smaller increases on the golf side for labor. Does that make sense?
Sorta. I don't know golf very well and
Yeah.
how it's laid out, so.
So
So it sounds like the bulk of the salaries, so like you were saying, the GM, you'd said that's in the golf shop?
I'm sorry. In 2024, the GM salary is all in admin, clubhouse and admin, in addition to some part-time work.
Okay.
So that's where you're seeing the increase from 21, 22, 23.
Okay, and then it was coming from, and again, this is just a lot of numbers, so I'm just,
Yeah.
and so where was it being moved from?
So
Where
you'll see
was it split between all of them, or?
It was just split between golf. So in 23, you'll see golf salaries was at 65,000. We're projected, you know, down to 54 this year. So
Okay.
yeah.
Another question is, there's a credit card fee. 294 is the line item. It's, you know, might be a similar situation, but $35, $66, projected budget this year, $3,000. And then for next year, you're asking for 2022.
Yeah, that should be.
So that
yeah.
is going to be an error on my side. And so I received information to fit their budget into our budget system. And I'm going to have to review this because I'm not seeing everything I thought that I entered come through, because I put it into my budget. And then it flows into a spreadsheet. And I want to double check that if I don't have that account number set up in the spreadsheet, it's not going to flow into it. So I'm going to double check this tomorrow and then send you a new copy. But that 21,855 is more than likely the capital item, not the credit card fees. And I do apologize.
And I think one of the problems that we have here is we have Oliphant using one system, we're using a different system. So Wendy's been trying to figure it out, going back and forth. And I'm sure Justin and Keith will be more than happy to help us out on that. So
Absolutely.
make sure it's correct.
Mr. Anderson?
Again, on this question of, is that enough for marketing for this type of operation?
Yeah, so that's pretty, you know, it's pretty typical to what we've seen and what we have been doing. I said a lot of the digital marketing that we do and remarketing through, you know, We have tracking set up on Google, so anybody that comes to the website, we get a lot of bang for the buck there. You know, in 22, we had photos taken of the property. You know, that was probably about $2,000. So I think overall it's staying pretty flat, and we've seen we can get a lot of bang for buck with that on digital marketing, and even, you know, the print up here has been pretty affordable too.
Mr. Jopek?
The building repair maintenance, your budget this year is 17. Next year, asking for 3. Is that just because you've knocked out a lot of the big maintenance items from previous years, and so this coming year doesn't look as heavy on the maintenance side, or?
Yes, yeah, exactly. We had a lot of purchases this year and repairs that had consisted of that, yeah.
Wouldn't the flooring we did on the lower level also be in this line item? So that might be why that's probably a big chunk of your 17 was
Oh,
the
yeah.
new vinyl that was on the base level.
Yeah, 23 was very high, yeah.
The only question I have, and Sarah, I've been out of the loop, so I don't know if this is more directed at Justin or maybe Patrick. If I'm not mistaken, this is a contract year. So these management fees you have in here, marketing fees, is that based on existing contract or the new proposed contract?
It's the new proposed contract.
Okay.
So our previous management fee was 90,000, and so 25 would be 94.5 or something like that, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've been out of the loop a little bit.
Yep.
Anything else for this budget of, well, we kind of did clubhouse and golf shop as one. Okay. Not seeing, moving to food and beverage. I don't know if any council member has any questions about that. Mr. Jopek?
I don't know if I'm in the same wheelhouse as I was before, but salaries shows 2024 budget 55. Director request is 151.6. Just, I know you guys said you expanded on your food operations. Is that just adding additional staff, or what are we seeing there?
Yeah, additional staff and more frequently staffed, being open in the off season. So for revenues, we're projecting in 24 at 240,000. We're budgeting at 300,000. So a big jump in revenues also.
How many employees are on the food and beverage right now?
Food and beverage consists of multiple areas, so it's not just the kitchen and the bar. It also includes servers out in the dining room and includes our beverage cart girls that are on the course. So they're seasonal, so they're only a few months a year through the summer. There's about 7 of them. There's 4 bartenders, there's a server, and then there's 2 cooks. So altogether, we're right around 15 to 18 people in the food and beverage department for the whole year. In peak season.
Mr. Jopek?
How many of those are, if any, are salaried? Because like obviously the cart girls are going to be like hourly, but how many of your food and beverage folks are year long, I guess?
Currently, there's nobody on salary.
Okay.
Everybody's hourly at this point.
Okay.
They're all hourly positions, but the head cook would be full-time year-round, yeah.
Mr. Barnett?
What are the hours of the restaurant, days and times?
You go ahead.
You want to step back from that one? So they have been adjusted now for the fall. So right now, while we're still finishing out the golf season, we're Monday through Wednesday from 11 to 3 for lunch hours for the businesses in our area. And then Thursday, we're 11 to 7, Fridays 11 to 8 to cover our fish fry on Friday nights. Saturdays 11 to 7 as well. And then on Sunday, we're open from 10 to 5.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the food and beverage category? Okay, not seeing debt service. I don't know if this is probably more of a Wendy explaining, or Justin. I don't know who would be better fit for this.
So on the debt service, It's really just the payback of the WRS loan, and that's from several years ago, but it's 2,000 that gets paid back, and the interest is figured up above. And then everything else is paid off for what the city borrowed with the general obligation.
Any questions on that category? Or any questions in general with the golf course? Okay, not seeing. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
It's the first time I've ever seen Joe without a hat on.
Every time I come here.
Okay, moving on to our next budget category, which is streets of public works. I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about, Patrick, or defer, or?
Not really. I mean, Justin knows his budget, so Justin would be the man here.
Good evening. For anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Justin Ernst, street foreman. I've made a few adjustments this year. There's a few of them because we had a decrease last year due to some shortfalls. So we had to adjust those back, like the concrete and asphalt budget had to go back up again so we can continue to do that work on the street. Also, the crack seal material budget, I tried to put that back where it was so we could get a full load of material to crack seal the asphalt. There's a few other items that were increased due to inflation costs. Professional services is one of them. When TAPCO does the annual inspection on our street light cabinets, their costs went up, so we're always short on that end. We have to borrow from another fund at times to be able to cover their costs alone. And if we have any tree removals and stuff like that, that has to come out of professional services as well. Our fuel costs, I increased that slightly. That's again due to increased fuel costs across the nation. That's where that went up. There's also in a minor equipment fund, I tried to include a new paint machine. Our newest paint machine for striping the curb and the stop bars, the crosswalks is over 10 years old. And the other one's even older than that, so we're trying to update that piece of equipment so we don't have another failure on that. I put in here also for a mini excavator and machinery and equipment fund. That would really help our department in removing sidewalk, curb. I would equate it to what we currently do with a backhoe is using a sledgehammer to hang a picture on the wall. It's just overkill and it's not maneuverable. We usually create more damage trying to use a older backhoe that doesn't have a hydraulic thumb, so we can't pluck chunks of concrete. We have to dig and try and scoop them out of there. We end up doing more damage, and it actually takes more time to rehabilitate the gravel underneath. Let's see, anything else in here? I don't think anything else was that out of line. If you guys are looking at like the overtime from last year, obviously we didn't have a lot of snowfall, so the call-ins weren't substantial, but that doesn't mean we don't have a hard initial winter, which could take that down again. So, any other questions from council?
So something for council to keep in mind, you know, as I stated before, the general fund is under distress. So this category is interwoven kind of with the PRAP tax. So when the PRAP tax was formed, whatever we were funding our street maintenance program, we had to keep that at roughly the same level or increase it. So as years went on, to take a burden off the general fund, we were taking some of these items that probably should have been put here from a budgetary point of view and pushing it towards the PRAP tax as a funding source. So that's when you start to look at some of the equipment that Justin will be requesting. You see that going on either our borrowing, you see it going on Pratt to fund it because the general fund is under distress. So this is just one of the areas where we tried to limp the general fund along by moving some of these costs when legal from a state point of view to the PRAP tax, to borrowing to help it out. So that, just keep that in mind. This is kind of linked a little bit with the PRAP tax, with some of these line items.
Could I just make one clarification, though? The general fund is not under distress. That's not a very good word for us to use, but We have to follow the rules to make sure that our general fund is a balanced budget, and we have to honor the expenditure restraint and the levy limits. But it's not a distress situation.
True. Mr. Jopek?
And I may have misheard you. You were talking about the machine with the pulling the curb out.
A mini excavator.
Oh, okay. And you said that was under 8. Was that machinery? And
Machinery and equipment.
Okay.
They're not that expensive.
Yeah.
In perspective to like a full-size excavator, which we try and replace our aging backhoe, which is a 2005.
Okay.
With an actual excavator, wheeled excavator, what we'd like. We could drive it to the site and have a full rotation, and that would have a mower attachment potentially, and we could replace, we have a 1980 tractor that mows all of the boulevards that we can't do with regular mowers. The mower attachment on that's a 2001, so again, aging stuff. And under borrowing, I'm hoping to get a full-size thing. But that mini excavator, we could travel around on a small trailer and do these jobs and get out of there, move along, rather than drive that backhoe across there. And our backhoe does not have a thumb, and if anybody's aware of what the thumb does, it's able to grab items with the bucket. We currently cannot do that, and it makes it very kind of a lethargic piece to try and do that work.
And what price is that at? Because on this one, it's showing a blank for 2025.
Because we're looking to shift it to borrowing.
Okay, so it's somewhere else in the...
Correct.
Okay.
So every second year, we borrow roughly $1 million, for capital improvements. You see everything from the pickup trucks to ambulances to that kind of stuff there, because it's a capital expense. So that's where that line item got shifted to.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I guess my question on that is, would you see yourself saving money in other areas if you did have that in like long term, or is it, I mean, obviously it sounds like there's a lot of benefits, but I was just curious, is there cost savings there in getting this?
I can put it in perspective like this. It's very hard for our department to save any more than what we've been doing. Like currently we're a plow route short for staff. So what happens now is I pull a guy off of a route, I go finish his route in the grader, and he goes and does the sidewalks because we've inherited a lot of sidewalks. We don't have anybody to fill that position. And it is what it is. We're running pretty lean as it is. And it's not making excuses. It's just reality right now of what we're going through. We're just trying to make things a little bit more efficient with the staffing we have. Because like, say our tar crew requires 5 people. Well, we're down to only 2 summer help instead of 3 like we used to have. So now you have full-time employees on the tar crew, and we're not able to use their skill set doing concrete work or asphalt work. So a piece of equipment that could speed up that process with fewer employees, I feel is a win. It's still less expensive than replacing a full-time employee with wages plus benefits. We're still ahead of the game even at that point, and if it's the best we can do, it's what we have.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Barnett?
What line item would the maintenance of the Edison lights on Brown Street and other streets be under?
The decorative lights has a special fund that we put those into, the ones that are immediately downtown, like the newer decorative ones.
No, the Edison lights that just went up recently.
Oh, that was a DRI project.
I understand, but it's under my understanding that the city is maintaining those?
We hung them up just based on our wages and employee hours. It's kind of a project that when we have a couple guys to shake loose, we can send them over to hang some wire, and it's not something that we have to do like nonstop. If we have to replace some bulbs, not that big of a deal,
Yeah. I would say it'd be similar to the Christmas decorations that get put up.
Very similar to the Christmas decorations. Those require very little maintenance other than hanging them and pulling them back down again.
Any other question? Oh, Mr. Anderson? If you could turn your mic on, Mr. Anderson.
It was interesting to me to learn that at least by the salary lines, we spend about as much on snow removal as we do on street maintenance. Or at least it sounds like that's the employee's cost anyway. And then it surprised me that 2024, isn't lower than previous years when we had less snow?
I can answer that one. We don't do our payroll based on what specifically is happening. That would be really difficult to budget. So we have it set up as a percentage that we allocate to each, regardless of the weather.
Yeah, so where that might affect it is if you have, let's say, 4 really bad winters where we incur a lot of overtime, we might budget a higher number, thinking that might be the new norm. So it kind of works on the trend line a little bit there, but it's not 1 year high or low won't really affect it. So similar like how you look at a WPS bill, if every year it's going up 5%, we're going to budget 5% more to kind of keep it in line.
Yeah, it's always going to have peaks and valleys, no matter what we do. We can't control how often it snows and the frequency and when it snows. You know, if it snows after hours, it's different, or on weekends only. You just don't know.
Okay, so we kind of covered snow and street maintenance. Was there any other questions on those two topics? Okay, so now we have street signs, marking, street lights, and garbage. I don't know if you want to speak to anything on that, Justin?
Not really. Again, any increases on here that are minor would be just due to inflation and operating costs. We try and do the bare minimum and as frugal as we can to operate. I don't feel like anything's ridiculous. And again, we're just trying to adjust with the times.
Mr. Anderson?
Looking at the line down near the bottom for remediation, landfill remediation, what is it that we do there?
I can answer that one. So we have the landfill that we are part of the Rhinelander Landfill Trust Group. And each year, GHD does monitoring services. They send me an estimate for what the items that need to be done in 25, and then I break it out into a percentage. We used to have a separate fund for the landfill that we were spending down. It has been spent down completely in 2024. So starting in 2025, the city's portion of the landfill trust expenses is going to come directly out of the general fund. And I worked with the auditor to make sure that it was categorized in the correct spot in the general fund, and it matches up with where they have been reporting it on our Form C with the state.
So that's like a contractor expense in a way?
It's the city's liability portion for the landfill remediation and monitoring.
And that goes on forever?
That I cannot answer, but it's my understanding.
Okay, not seeing any other questions. Moving on to, well, landfill remediation, there's a breakdown on the next page. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that, since that fund would then be pretty much zeroed out after this, or after 2024. Okay. Next one will be the recycling budget in your packet. I don't know if there's any questions about that breakdown. Okay, not seeing any questions on the recycling one. Moving on to capital projects, Public Works Street Improvement Fund 432. First turn this over to Wendy, our treasurer.
So this is, when we borrow funds, we post it to a separate fund so that we are able to track that the borrowed funds have been spent down within the allowable 3 years. So we had a fund available from prior years that we had borrowed with the Stevens Street project. And the Stevens Street project was spending down those funds. And instead of muddying the Pratt fund, because there's a lot of moving parts when we have a large project that has several funding sources, for the street portion, anything that is a street asset, it gets coded to the street's budget. And then at the end of the year, after I work with our engineer to figure out of the street expenses, what was funded by like the USDA funding or the Clean Water Fund or the Safe Drinking Water Fund, those, as we receive that money, it gets posted to the utility that is responsible for repaying it, but it's covering some of the street expenses. So then there's another journal entry. So to keep the Pratt fund a little bit cleaner, I recorded all the Oneida Ave project expenditures in Fund 432. And the project is to be completed before the end of the year, and this fund will then zero out. But there is a transfer from the Pratt fund into this fund to cover the local share.
Any questions on this budget? Okay, not seeing. Moving on to the next one, which is the general Pratt fund for the city. So when you look at 2025, so this fund is based on a percentage of sales tax collected in the city. So we are taking an educated guess of what we think the sales tax would be for a revenue. So I mean, if you look at past years, 2021, 805, 2022, 909, 23, 938. So we only budgeted a $900,000 income or revenue based on, we wanted to be a little conservative to play safe. Also, you look at some of the newer businesses coming online, such as Blaine's, L&M ramping up. So there's hope that it will be higher than 900,000, but from a budget point of view, we want to be conservative. That way we don't spend or plan on spending more than we actually will receive. So that's where that 900,000 comes from, as a placeholder. The 285,000 LRIP that was awarded to us for doing Menominee Drive, if you guys remember. So that is, I believe, a 50-50 grant that would be done. So, and then there's some interest and payments on debt. So when you work your way down more on the 570, so we're budgeting this, but that's a very fluid. What we're going to get for the 570 is very fluid. So one is what are we designing for Messer Street? That's A, what version of Messer Street are we going to design and build? B, when that gets designed, Mark Barden from Town and Country is going to give us what he thinks it's going to cost. Well, we have to go out for bid, receive bids, and then we're going to get that hard number. If council chooses to award a bid, then the remaining funds from that 570, we're going to be looking at doing some chip seal, some mill and overlays like we did on Pelican Street this year, and possibly expansion like we did on Grant this year. So that 570 is a placeholder saying what we're looking to do for street improvements, but it's kind of first geared to what happens with Messer, then the remainder looks at additional streets.
Just to clarify, the Messer Street is separated out just down below at the 560,000?
Yeah, the 570 is Menominee, and then those additional chip seals, overlays as the remainder. Sorry, just two close numbers there, were very close in dollar amount. So, any questions about this budget? So, but I just want to point out, this Pratt fund has been a saving grace for the city. I mean, if you look at every major street utility project was done with this fund. So if this would ever to disappear for the city, you won't have street projects. So just something to keep in mind. From Oneida to Stevens to downtown, this 0.5% sales tax that we're collecting is funding all of our street projects for the most part. So just something to keep in mind if you get asked, what's the value of that 0.5% sales tax? So moving on to water utility. First turn it over to Patrick, and then how you see fit.
I'll turn it right over to Tom, who also isn't wearing a hat, which is weird.
It's weird that you talk about it so much, but Yeah, not a lot of changes in ours, except, luckily with Patrick and Wendy working so hard at getting these utility rate increases, that's going to help our fund a lot because there's some tower maintenance over the next few years that is going to have to get done. In the 650 account, tower painting, that account normally is stagnant. However, we put 230,000 in for the tower painting this year. That's the big deal that went on in this budget. 625 account, just some agreements for PJ Corton's generator maintenance, meter calibrations. 651 valve turner for the water utility crews, so they're not doing them by hand anymore. And you'll see in the stormwater budget, there's a $10,000 allocation out of there, and in the 921 we set aside $20,000 for our water utility building to get new siding on it. Other than that, not much has changed. And we did come in pretty well under budget on the mains maintenance and services maintenance, and that's basically due to the winter we had last year. We didn't do any freeze ups, we had 0 overtime, and those budgets are going to be probably about combined almost 90,000 under. That's it for the water, unless you've got any questions. Yes.
As far as the water tower painting goes,
Yep.
is that completely exterior? Because I think Kurt Johnson was saying that some of the interior, like the ladders needed to be.
There's some.
It's all
inside ladder maintenance. I think it's not up to code safety wise, so
Okay.
I think they've got to get it.
I
up
just
to
wanted to
code.
make sure that got covered too.
Yep.
Okay.
Ms. Anderson?
This is probably a question for Wendy. On the wastewater, grant funding to be reallocated, $1.6 million.
Are we still on the water budget?
Did you say wastewater or water, Gerald?
I said wastewater.
Yeah, so once we get there, I'll call back on, so right now we're just water fund, because they're all different utilities and, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? So the only question I have, and I think it's kind of for Tom and Wendy, so I know we've been trying to go to the digital meters, so when we hit that threshold, it's more of a digital response versus having, a staff member go out to get the readings. And I think also after a certain amount of users, we have to do it monthly versus quarterly. So I was just kind of wondering, how close are we to being fully digital metered, as well as how close are we to having the monthly readings?
We could go to monthly reading at any time. I mean, with our staff, Wendy, don't do that.
No, we could not do that just at this specific time.
Yeah, staff-wise, we could do it and get it done. I'm confident in that. We're probably about 70% radioed right now. Years ago, I had council approval for 700 radios a year to install. I had to send about 400 back this year due to some budget items, specifically Grant Street money getting spent. So if we could keep doing the 700 a year, yeah, next year we could easily go to monthly billing, which would make life easier for everybody. If we did that, when a customer has an issue, we can read 31 days of usage on our computer if we can get to the problem quicker. But if someone has a issue in the beginning of a billing cycle and we get there 3 months later, we're not capturing that actual data where the issue was. So I'd love to get to it, but I would say we probably have 2 years before we do.
I just wanted to add my hesitancy is just that I feel that for the utility billing clerk, there's going to have to be additional manpower because I don't think that one person is going to be able to respond to the customer service calls for everyone in the city instead of a third of the city each month.
So one thing I have a question for you, Tom, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, or Wendy and I at least have, is cell reads, meters that work on basically 3G or whatever it is now. I don't know what it is. Has there ever been any thought to installing those? I know it'd be a big cost, a big expense, but has there ever been any thought or consideration for that?
If that means changing our system the way it is now, absolutely not.
Okay, I just wanted to know.
But when it does or when we do decide to go monthly billing and we're stocked with enough radios, we can put an antenna on City Hall and read right from here.
There you go.
I mean, we're kind of set up for that, but not specifically cellular.
Down the road.
Right.
Thanks, Tom.
Anything else for the water utility budget? Okay. Moving on to our next budget, which is wastewater utility.
So in the wastewater budget, you'll see a lot of accounts have increased from last year's budget amounts. I'm just going to run through some of the accounts that have changed and what the significant amounts are for. Account 821, Rod Sewage Pump and Power. We just estimated a 10% increase in rates. Account 824, phosphorus removal chemicals. Last year we budgeted 52,000. This year, or 2025, we're looking at 70. We're already over our budget, or going to be over our budget. Our next chemical order, we're using more phosphorus removal chemical. We're producing more sludge at the plant, and we need it to remove the phosphorus for our limits for discharging. Chemical prices have actually gone up in the last few years. They've tripled, and then they slowly went up, and now they stabilized, and then they're not coming down anytime soon from the vendors. So that's where that cost is coming from. Same thing with sludge removal chemical on account 825. We are going to be over budget on that, so we're projecting to bump that up also. They're also in 826 and other chemicals and treatments. That account was for cleaners and degreasers, but we're also going to be using a new chemical called Rhinelander. We're going to be using it about 2 to 4 times a year. In the next few weeks, we're going to be using it in our sludge process. There is a it's called strudivite that gets on the piping of our sludge process between the hot and cold pipes, and it builds up like a calcium deposit, and this red lime will dissolve it and get it out. So depending on how many times a year we do that, I got budgeted next year for 2025 to do it 4 times. Now if we only do it 2 times during the year, that number will come down. Moving on to maintenance of collection systems, or supplies and expenses of the collection system in 827. That has gone up a little bit due to utility billing went up 35% because we actually also have to pay the sewer and water fees, even though we treat it and make it. DNR vendor fees, I expect to go up a little bit, not a whole lot. So that's where the increase is in that account. Transportation expense went up a little bit. I added $1,200. We've been rust inhibiting trucks, our newer vehicles, because we have a lot of salt up here. This company that does it, they guarantee that after 10 years of rust proofing these vehicles, we can trade them in with rust free. So I think it's cheap insurance to keep our vehicles rust free from all the salt up here. We were paying for that out of a different account, general expense, and I just made a line item in the transportation expense for that. Maintenance collection systems, 831. Tom asked for $20,000 for televising sewers. We put 4,000 for vac truck repairs, hoses, fittings, and nozzles, as we have to replace those every year, and sewer repairs, 20,000. We have a Oneida Street lift station that needs some repair. We're looking at, it's about 35 feet deep. It's 31 years old. The rails for the pumps, there's 2 sets of rails for each pump. Those rails are corroding and getting really bad, and they're almost coming apart. We're going to replace some new stainless steel rails, new pump bases, and we're looking at 2 new pumps in there because the pumps are 31 years old. So the cost of that's about $24,000. So we also have a repair on one of our Spring Lake lift stations for around $2,600 for replacing a hatch on there. The hatch is not lockable. It's corroded. It's actually caving in. It's right off a road, so it's a hazard and an issue with anybody in the neighborhood if they open that up and fall in. So I'd like to get that done as soon as possible. So safety issue, I guess, is the best way to put it. Maintenance of collection pump equipment, 832. There's our regular maintenance agreement that we have with Xylem that was already a 3-year agreement. That's split up between a few accounts that's in there. So we got 2 years left on that agreement, 25 and 26. So that's in there. Same thing with our PJ Court Service agreement. It's in here budgeted in 3 different accounts, but that won't come to council till January when we get the new. I put in there a little increase, so just so it's budgeted for, but that will come to council because that's a yearly service agreement. We also, I guess in this account is where I have the pumps for Oneida lift station. And then we also have annual generator service that's normal. We put in there for pump repairs and control panel repairs, just normal maintenance and cost of operating. 833 maintenance of treatment plant equipment. We're replacing, if you council members, I've come to you every year, or even before me, the foreman before that, we've been replacing some sludge pumps. We only have 1 more to do, but I'm not going to replace that for a year or 2 till we're out of parts, because no reason to. And it's one of the pump. It's the only one pump that runs once a week. The rest of them run 24/7. But we're looking at replacing the macerator. That's part of our sludge process. That's 30,000. The one that's there is 13, going on 14 years old. We're throwing parts at it, housings. It's going to get expensive, and we like to replace that with a new boarder, easier to work on. Parts are a lot cheaper, and it's just time, just like all the other sludge pumps. They just saw that end of life. Also in there is sludge pump parts that we order every year for maintaining these pumps. One thing that's in there is we're looking at a generator repair out at the plant that runs the whole plant when we lose power, which we do several times a year. We have a water pump leak in there, so we're budgeting 10,000, and hopefully the street department mechanic can fix that. So, also our hauler lift station pump, where the septic haulers come in and dump. That pump is showing the impeller is almost wore completely through. The volute that the impeller is in is all wore, so that pump is 13 years old. I'm looking at replacing that, so we can't. Haulers bring in revenue, so I don't want to be down and tell them we can't take any septage. And, one more thing. There's also we have a seal repair on our belt press that needs to be done, and our step screen repair for about 40,000. The step screens in our headworks building, where everything comes in from the force main from our main lift station. The step screen is 13 going on 14 years old, original from the plant. It's never been worked on. We do basic maintenance on it every month, but all the bearings, the spacers, the chains, everything's showing wear. It starts getting worse, it's going to do more damage to it and cost us more money down the road. So the parts are about 25,000, and the repair it's about 15 for a mechanical contractor to come in. 834 maintenance of general plants. We have an explosion-proof heater in our headworks building that's been out. Replace that's going to be 25 grand, and an AC unit in our aeration building, electrical room. That's been out for a year or two. We've been propping the door open to keep it cool. That's about 9 grand to repair. So those things are in our budget. Office supplies and expenses. Those are just normal lab expenses, office expenses. There our wet testing, our membership fees, our training and exams, our shipping, all that stuff. Scale calibrations, uniform service. Outside service employed, that was at 10 going to 20. I guess Wendy can explain that one, why that went up.
So the outside services employed is also another one that has various vendors in there, and I do believe that part of that could have been with the legal services. I think that your computer repairs and maintenance is going to your office supplies and expenses.
Correct.
So I think we might have just increased it to match more of what your actual was for 21, 22, and 23, because it is.
Yeah, and I'll just be honest, I don't approve or put anything in that account, so that's why I just referred to you, because I don't really know what some of the stuff that goes in there is for, to be honest, so.
No, I can't off the top of my head remember if there was something specific in there.
Okay.
I think it was more to match the trend.
Okay. Miscellaneous general expenses, that's just going up a little bit just because generator fuel's in there, some of our fees, miscellaneous expenses, gas sensor calibrations. We got heater repairs that we do every winter. We have crane inspections that are done yearly. And you can see in some of these accounts there's admin allocations and salaries, and that's on finance and administration side. And I will note some of these accounts that went up and some of these repairs I was talking about, some of this stuff will be taken out of our equipment replacement fund. That's got money that's already established in it. So.
Any questions about this budget?
So I can address your question from before, Gerald. So the utilities are enterprise funds, and they're set up a little bit differently than our normal general fund and our special revenue funds, where when we receive money for loans, those are posted directly to the balance sheet, and this budget is the income statement side. So like if you look in 2023, where we were talking about when we have a large utility and street project, some of the street and the other utility assets, the expenditures get posted to the utility that owns the asset, but it might be funded from, like the USDA is paid back the loan, and the grant money is the responsibility of the wastewater fund and the clean water fund. And then the safe drinking water loan program is secured by the water fund. So on here from 2023, there's a transfer in wastewater and a transfer out, and that was specific to the Stevens Street project. And then for the expenditures ending in 436, it's infrastructure it's municipal, muni. That was the loan portion of the USDA loan was coming in and being recorded on the balance sheet, but the transfer of that money to cover the street portion of the expenses was an expense on the income statement side of the 1.9 million. And I just received numbers from Mark Barden on Monday to be able to fill out the Fund 432 budget and to figure out what the transfer in is going to be. I just need to add it into the projected for '24. So it's going to be like around 930,000, but it's going to be broken down. A portion of it's coming from the wastewater fund and a portion is coming from the water fund to go into Fund 432. And I just didn't get that far.
I got a question for you. So the plant has been there quite a while now. Without doing any major upgrades or nothing, how close are we to capacity of what the plant could handle?
The plant's running under half capacity right now.
Half?
It's designed for, I think, 2.23 or 2.32 million gallons a day, and we're under 1 million gallons a day. The only thing down the road that might have to be upgraded because of the limits that are more stricter with E. coli limits is our UV disinfection. We met them this year. Actually, we're done disinfecting. We shut the UV off yesterday. We only do it from till September 1st every year. It's May till the end of September, to the end of September is our disinfection. Could see an upgrade in that. It all depends on what comes through the plant. I can't predict that. The other thing that you could see a possible upgrade in the future is as Rhinelander grows, our sludge process. We're about 75% at capacity of our sludge right now. Our tanks weren't designed big enough. Our drying pads aren't big enough. This year we got through our sludge drying. Previous years we didn't get through it all. There's not enough pad space for drying. So the more sludge we produce, or the more flows we start getting, Rhinelander starts growing. And so to answer your question, there could be some upgrades in the future, and those would be the two that I can think of right now.
What about from lift stations' point of view? Any of them getting close to maxing out?
Yep. So Pelham Street is is going to be happening in the spring. That we already went through council, and that's part of the Oneida Street project. That those USD funds were allotted to that. Kemp West is going to be upgraded. That was part of the cobblestone project there. The Rose Street lift station will get some upgrades, new panel, some new piping, new railing, new pumps, and that's most likely should be tied in with the Messer Street project, because that's down there by the Hodag Park boat landing. I talked about Oneida Street, doing some minor rehabbing to that, being 31 years old, that we're budgeting for next year. And then the following year, I'm looking at doing a control panel, and then that one will be done. But there's only a few other lift stations, unless they possibly be part, like, I'll just name them off. One by Menards. If any development goes over there, something needs to be done with that. Heel Springs, it's out by Ponce and whatever company is out there, I can't think of it, Laser Pros. That one, if stuff gets developed out there, that's going to be upgraded. But some of those, right now, the way they sit, I do have panel issues. They're older. They got the controls are getting wore out. You can't get replacement parts for them. So if something doesn't happen in the future with growth or projects, I will be looking at maybe some pumps and control panels at those two lift stations. Right now, the lift station is pumping over by where the new hotel went in. I guess it's Holiday Inn Express. It goes to that's the how's that street name? Chippewa lift station. The problem we're having there ever since it started is all the rags getting clogged in the pumps. It's been better lately. It's only been every couple of weeks we're going to pull those pumps, and they're just full. The impellers are just chock full of rags because they get all bound up in there. It was really bad when they first opened up. So that is a panel upgrade, and maybe some new pumps put in there. So that's just something we can talk about and look at in the next year or two. After that, I don't see many lift station upgrades. Because most of the three oldest ones after Pelham and Kemp West get done. Those were our two oldest lift stations along with Eagle Street that just got done this year.
Thank you.
So, yep.
Was there anything else regarding this budget? Okay, not seeing. Moving on to the next one, which is stormwater utility. Tom?
This one's, I'll make it short and sweet, because most of the costs are for sweeping the vac truck, mixer, just small repairs like that, and not much has changed. Those numbers pretty close to last year's got us through, and there's still a surplus, so there's not much change in that one.
Any questions regarding this budget? So this would probably be more for Patrick. Would the new retention pond that the city took ownership of over by the Holiday Hotel, that goes to this fund? Any kind of maintenance that needs to be done?
I don't believe so at this moment. I don't believe there's anything that needs to be done. There will be at some point coming up,
But that goes to this fund at
believe
that
so.
point? So,
The only thing I would anticipate, unless there's damaged liner, which hopefully that never happens, would be probably vac truck services, and that's typically budgeted for just in our salaries. So.
any other questions for this budget? Okay, not seeing. And that comes to the end of the budgets for tonight.
Can I just say something, Mayor? Just want to let council know, you've got a majority of the department heads sitting in here. I've worked in multiple communities. These are some of the best people you're going to meet. They do a great job. They know their budgets inside and out. Every day, I mean, Kurt and Justin and Tom, you don't see them every day. They do the work. They and their crews do the work you don't see. So I just really hope you appreciate, what these guys come out and do and what they do every day. Because, when you got Brian, you got Lloyd, you got Tara, you got Wendy and Austin here, Jeremy Biolo, add him, and Rachel as well. You got a really great staff here. And I want everybody to know that it's important that you know that. Thanks.
Okay. Our next regular council meeting will be October 14th at 6 p.m. We have an upcoming budget hearing at October 9th at 5 p.m. and then the following October 16th at 5 p.m. It is 6:32, meeting adjourned.
Can I make a request? Nothing official. Can we have a spare hat for Tom for the next time he forgets his? Because that was throwing me off all night.